I'm back at the 72 Le Mans today, and today we are going to cut out the rear package tray. Some people call it a speaker panel or a rear deck panel, and basically mine is rotted out. So I'm going to show you how to remove the rear window, cut out the package tray, and hopefully replace it, and then we will have a much more solid trunk where the water won't leak in and rot out the quarter panels. Now, I have a 72 Le Mans. This package tray is for a 60, I think it's 68 to 72 Chevelle. I'm hoping that it's the same. Pretty sure it is. I know there's some small differences, like with the defrost vent here, and then these cutouts are flopped the opposite way on the Le Mans. So there's minor differences, but I'm hoping that the whole thing overall aligns enough so that this bottom section can be replaced and it will hold the water on the outside of the car instead of the inside. So first things first, we gotta get this window out, and I gotta remove all this junk from the trunk lid because I gotta remove the trunk lid too. So you can see, I also have all my glass removal tools, and I have this panel right here. I think they call that a filler panel. This one is actually meant for a Le Mans and a GTO. The Chevelle apparently is different. It's a different part number. So I got one of these as well. And then right here, you can see we have some tools to remove the glass. These tools are not great, and the whole process of removing glass is pretty terrible. This is going to be especially bad because somebody siliconed the trim around the glass and they put flat screws through it. So this is going to be disastrous. So let's get started. You can see all around here, there's silicone going all the way around the window. And we also have some flathead screws to remove, which is truly awful. You can see the Bondo that is right here. If I had a screwdriver in my hand, I'd chip it up for you and show you. But moral is, underneath here, this whole section here is rotted beyond belief. I'll show you a picture in just a second. And that is actually part of this giant panel that's under this window. So I'm gonna clear off the trunk lid, we'll take off the trunk lid, and then I'll show you the rot that's underneath. All right, with the trunk open, you can sneak under here, and you'll notice that there's just no metal left. See, it's just completely rotted out all the way across. So that is why we are replacing this, because whenever the rain comes down, it comes down in here, falls in here, and it also builds up down where they siliconed the glass to the body, and the rain builds up and rotted out that entire inside panel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace all that. A good starting point is removing the trunk lid. So that's where we're gonna start. We're gonna remove the trunk lid, I'm gonna empty out the trunk, a bunch of junk in here, and then I'll hop right in here and I'll start cutting the rear window out. Hopefully it's not as bad as I think, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be terrible. So we'll find out. With the trunk lid out of the way, now I'm gonna attack those flat screws and see if any of them come off or if I'm gonna have to cut them off. We'll see. Wow. So it's a self-tapping flathead screw. And this is gross. Whoever did this, that's embarrassing. So I got, I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 of them out. This one is broken, but it's broken just below the surface. So you can spin it really easily and it doesn't want to come out. I also wanted to point out this. That's pretty sweet. So, you can just imagine how much water is coming through here and rotting out the panel underneath this. This is pretty gross. But, honestly, if you're just trying to slap a car together quickly, I guess I can't blame them. This was probably done, I have to imagine, in the 1980s or something like that. There's a couple other things that I noticed while I was in here, and figured I'd point them out. Right here, it looks like this is at a more extreme angle than it should be. Almost like this piece is bent upward, or maybe the quarter panel is bent downward. I'm not honestly sure which one is the case. If you come over here, you can see this panel right here is almost like horizontal. It's close at least. But the one over here, this is just royally messed up. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm gonna have to sort that out as well at some point. Hopefully it's just something as simple as bending this downward. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's try and tackle some of this trim, see if we can get the trim off. No, it's cool. I have a tool for doing this, but it's broken because I lent it to a friend. Don't do that. So, I guess I'll use a flat screwdriver instead. Look at that! One of them down. So it's worth noting that these pieces of trim are supposed to be held on with clips. And the clips have little pins that lock, well, okay, let me back that up a little bit. The clips lock onto pins which are attached to the body of the car. If those pins are missing, then the clips can't attach, and therefore you can't attach the trim. So, in this case, I have to imagine that the pins are rotted off the car, and that's why somebody siliconed these things in. So, I haven't dug into that yet, but I'm betting that's the case. Luckily, there's a bunch of different ways to put the pins back on the car. You can buy screws that are replacements for the pins, or you can actually weld pins in, but you need a special tool to do that. So, we'll have to see where the day takes us. For right now, I just want to get the glass out. Let's do it. Like I said a minute ago, there's these little pins that are around the window. This is one of them. So this one still exists, which is great. Then there's a little clip that attaches to these pins. And up here, you can actually see one. So it's rotted and broken, but this is the sort of clip that clips on there. And you can buy new ones of these. I think there's you can buy like 20 packs of them for about 10 bucks. So it should be really cheap to sort the whole trim thing out. Actually, as I look around, there's actually quite, see, you can see there's a trim clip here. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. And then on the bottom half, it looks like they're mostly gone. Here's one on this side. So it looks like some of these clips are actually still there, which means the pins are probably there too, which is actually great news for me. Now, I need to get this glass out, and based on the rest of the work that happened to this car at some point, I am gonna guess that this window is probably not held in all that well. You can see the goo that has held in the window is not actually attached to the glass in some areas. So I'm hopeful that I can get a piece of piano wire in here, or window removal wire, and hopefully cut this out fairly easily. So it's not a fun process, but it's what you gotta do. All right. Now you probably heard me say piano wire a second ago, and piano wire is what people used forever ago. Now you can actually buy windshield removal wire, but it's essentially the same thing. There's two different types of this wire. I found that one type works much better than the other. So this type that I have on the actual tool right now is braided, and that seems to cut a lot better than the solid type does, in my opinion. I don't know if everybody else has the same experience, but the way that this works is you have a tool like this, and you poke the wire through from either the outside of the car to the inside or the inside to the outside, and then you feed the wire through it. And then once the wire is through from the outside to the inside, you hook up a handle on each side of it, and then you basically pull back and forth, almost like you're cutting cheese or something. So you pull back and forth and you cut all of the butyl seal out from the glass itself. And once it's all cut, then you can just pull the glass right out, and then you just trim the butyl seal out of there, and you can reseal your glass. Of course, we have to cut the entire back of the car apart first and rebuild all the metal back here before we can put the glass in. All right, let's get started and see what happens. You can see now I've fed the wire from the inside of the car through the butyl seal and to the outside. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook up a handle to it, and I'm gonna start going around the window. I'm gonna start cutting the butyl seal out of the glass. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's a total fail because you can't reach both sides of the car when you're one person. Having two people really helps a lot. So if you can find a friend, go for it. If you don't have any friends, well, just follow whatever the heck I do. All right, I don't know if you caught what just happened, but basically the braided wire worked awesome. I got through probably more than 75% of the seal, and then I got to the bottom and the braided wire snapped. So I didn't have any more braided wire, all I had was the solid stuff. As I said before, I hate the solid stuff. Put the solid wire in, and it lasted like 10 seconds, something like that. Totally terrible. So what I'm doing now is I noticed that if I just pry up on the window, it looks like it's probably gonna come out because I think I got enough of the butyl seal out that I can just kind of pop it up. There is a chance that I might break the window. Let's see what happens. Great news. I got the glass out. So now I get to evaluate how rotted out the area around the glass is. And honestly, I expected a lot worse than this. I think once I vacuum this out, I got my vacuum here. Once I vacuum all of this out, I'll be able to kind of better inspect this area. I know that typically on A-bodies, this bottom corner of the window tends to rot out. So I'm not gonna be shocked if behind all of this goo and rust is some giant holes. And same thing on the other side. So I guess what I'm gonna do now is vacuum all this out, maybe cut out more of the butyl seal to kind of clean it up. And then I think what I might do is cut a couple of reinforcements for the trunk just to kind of hold everything square. I honestly don't think that anything will flex or get out of whack if I cut this this deck panel out, but I'm gonna just be on the extra safety side of things and put some extra supports like in the trunk or something like that. I don't want to because I'm kind of lazy about it, but we'll see how it goes. with the area scraped and the butyl seal all removed, I found what I was expecting in the beginning, which is we got rod holes down here, and then you can see there's a few of these clips left that I mentioned earlier. We have a rod hole up here. This was covered in fiberglass, and there's actually fiberglass in a few other areas, which I'll show you. We have the hole here that I showed you earlier. I chipped off some Bondo right here. This is where the factory seam is between the filler panel and the quarter. And then right here is a nice big hole, which is just full of Bondo and fiberglass. Pretty nice. And then up here is some more holes that were covered in fiberglass. So this actually makes me wonder what the story is with this. My guess is that's the original quarter panel, and somebody just basically wanted a quick fix and used fiberglass to fix it instead of metal. So what I will be doing is replacing all this with metal, because that's what you should do, and hopefully I can make it make it look good again. So I think the next steps are to probably pull out the back seat, make sure there's nothing around there that can light on fire. And then I'm going to brace a few things, and then I'll start cutting some panels out. Oh yeah, one more thing. You see, here's these little pins that I was telling you about. I don't think there's any down here. Yeah, all those ones are rotted off. But up at the top, there's a few left. Here's one with a rot hole next to it. This clip is still on here. This is what the clip originally looked like. And there's the little pin that it sits on right here. Kind of tough to see. So, anywho, that is the latest. So now I'm gonna pull the back seat out and probably the rear side panels, and then I will try and figure out a way to reinforce the trunk just so nothing moves, and then we'll start cutting. So I just ran out and grabbed a couple of pieces of angle iron that I'm gonna weld in between to kind of structurally hold this thing together while I cut out the whole middle section. Unfortunately, about 4-foot pieces, and you can see they're about an inch too short, because that's how life goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this in between the trunk supports, the hinges I should say, and then I'm probably going to cut one of the angle iron pieces in half, and I'm going to make a couple uprights just to hold the quarter panels in place so that they don't sink down. I don't think they will, but I'm just kind of doing a little extra precautions today. So, let's see what happens. All right, with the filler panel cut out, you can see there's not much metal left. It's all rotted out. And you can see this drip edge is actually not even attached to anything all the way down, which is pretty impressive. So I'm going to continue cutting this out, and then I'll remove the rear panel and hopefully start fitting in the new one. So that's all we have for today. I think next time I'll be able to cut the rest of this out and hopefully start fitting the new one in. There's about 1 million spot welds to drill out, and obviously there's a lot of like cleanup around the edges that I still have to do. So we'll save that for the next video. Once all of this is complete, I'm going to merge all these videos into one, and that way there'll be one concise video showing you from start to finish how to do this. But for right now, in order to get some videos out, I'm gonna just make a few of them as I go. So we'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe, share this with your friends, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.